Welcome to this new video of Pure Sim Gamer. Today we are going to talk about VORs, which stands for Very High Frequency Omnidirectional Range Stations. VORs are actually radar beacons that are like a compass. As you see on the picture, they have different radials from 0 to 360 degrees. On our flight plan, we are going to try to track a radial and in this way find our way to the VOR. Now, in the plane, in the Cessna, we will have an instrument that we use to track a radial of a VOR. That's called the course deviation indicator. Now, on the compass rose, on the left side of the picture, you see that in a green line, I have drawn the 95 degrees radial out of the VOR. Now, if our plane, whatever direction it is flying, is above that radial, then we are on the from side of the VOR radial. On the course deviation indicator, you can see in the little circle a triangle that points downwards. This indicates that you are on the from side of the radial or above the 95 degrees radial. In this new picture, we see actually that I have drawn on the compass rose a blue line. Actually, that's the prolongement of the 95 degree radial, but to the other side of the compass. We could say that this is the 275 degree radial. But when we are tracking the 95 degree radial and we are on the other side, on the blue side of the radial, then we are actually on the to side of the radial. So any direction we are flying with our plane, we are then on the to side of the radial, which you can see on the course deviation indicator as an arrow that points upwards. It means actually that if we would fly to the VOR, that we are heading towards the green side, towards the 95 degree radial. I have planned a flight route where we are going to fly from the island of Honolulu to the island of Molokai in the Hawaiian Islands. We are going to take off from Honolulu Airport on runway 4 right, which is this runway here. We are going to depart in northeastern direction, and then we are going to fly to the VOR with code CKH, called Coco Head, and which has a frequency of 113.9. We are going to fly towards the 95 degrees radial leading out of this VOR. So here we are at Honolulu Airport in our Cessna on runway 4 right. First thing that we want to do is set the frequency of the first VOR. The frequency was 113.9. This can be entered here, 130.9, and we have to activate it by clicking on this button. Also, we have to set the bearing of our first radial, which was 95 degrees out of VOR MKK. So we use the Omni bearing selector and set this to 95 degrees, which is east, 30 degrees, 60 degrees, 90 degrees, 95 degrees. As you can see on the course deviator instrument panel, this line has switched to the left, which means that after takeoff we have to head left to intercept the 95 degrees radial. So let us take off. It's nice that on the map of Navigraph you can follow the plane. It's this pink arrow. Let's wait until we hit about 60 miles per hour. Gently take off. Now the radial goes 95 degrees, so let's set a heading in the direction of 95 degrees, but let's wait until the needle goes to the center, which means that we are on the radial. You can see that the radial slowly goes to the center, and now that the radial is on the center of the CDI, we set a heading here of 95 degrees. (90 degrees, 95 degrees). And now we are on the 95 degrees radial of the VOR. Which you can see here on the map. We are flying towards the first VOR, the CKH VOR, on the 95 degree outbound VOR radial. Now, how do you know if you're flying towards the VOR? Well, here on the CDI, that we see with this triangle here, that we are going to the radial. This means that the radial leads, the 90 degrees radial leads out of Coco Head away from us. In that case, just look towards where this icon points. It points to the top. That means that we have to follow a course of 95 degrees. And as you can see here on the course indicator, we are flying 95 degrees. This means we are flying also in the direction of the VOR. As you can see on the map, we are flying in the direction of the VOR. Here is another situation. As you can see on the course direction indicator, the arrow points downwards, which means that we are on the from radial. We are on top of the radial, on top of the 93 degrees radial. Now, how do you know if you fly towards the VOR? Well, follow the angle of this little triangle. It points downwards. Then you can read here that 275 degrees is the direction to follow to go to the VOR. So you just look where it points to, and if you choose that bearing here, then you can see that if we follow 275 degrees here, you can see on the map that we are flying towards the VOR. Here we have yet another scenario. In this case, on the CDI, we see that this arrow here points downwards. This means that we are on the from radial. That means that the radial, actually the 93 degrees radial, is below us. Now, how do you know how you fly towards the VOR? Well, you look at the angle and you look downwards. You follow the arrow downwards, and then you would see here the degrees that you have to fly to the VOR. Just the same, to fly away from the VOR, look at the opposite direction of this triangle, which is here, and then you see if you follow a course of 95 degrees, as we are following now, then you are flying away from the VOR. As you can see with this pink icon here on our Navigraph charts, we're flying away from the VOR. here is another scenario. As you see on the course deviation indicator, the little icon points to the top. That means that we are on the 2 radial. That means that the radial actually is on the other side of the VOR. We are on the prolonged line of the 93 radial. And if you would want to fly towards the VOR, you look in what direction this little icon points, and you would follow the course, which is here 93 degrees, to fly towards the VOR. But if you want to fly away from the VOR, you look at the opposite side, and there you see that at a bearing of 275 degrees, you would fly away from the VOR. And here in our direction indicator, you see that we are flying about 275 degrees. So we are flying away from the VOR, as you can see here on the little nav map from Navigraph.